It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He is Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley. As we begin the countdown to Thanksgiving, 7 days and counting.
I don't have anything to be thankful for. Life sucks. Life sucks.
That's a great thing about being an old guy. You can do that and people go, it's just an old guy.
Yeah, it's just an old guy. He's
just an old guy.
He just ticked off at life.
Yeah. Yeah. He's just
never married.
Angry.
Never married that beautiful woman.
Well,
all the hot
one
women.
of us did.
I was talking about me specifically.
Yeah, right,
I was
yes.
all the hot women passed him by.
Well, my wife's at home going, I really married down, didn't I? Yeah. Yeah, it's so here we are, another crazy day around the Red Eye house.
Well, there was plenty of red in San Francisco.
Yeah.
I'm reading here the New York Post. Just went on the air. As he hosts China's Xi, Biden delivers pitiful 2024 re-election platitudes that Republicans can't seem to beat. And just a couple of paragraphs here. It took the arrival of a Chinese dictator for San Francisco to finally clean the filth off their streets,
Wow.
at least temporarily.
Yeah.
Sure, they had to erect cages around the sidewalks to keep them clear until President Xi leaves California.
Yeah.
But better to be seen as a prison than a pig pen.
Yeah.
It's all theater, of course.
Mm-hmm.
The Chinese and other Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation leaders know that after the facelift, San Francisco will revert to a feces-encrusted slum as the zombies are released from wherever they have been hidden.
No, there was a release from the governor's office that they kept all of the poop from the sidewalks that they scooped up, and they're going to dump it right back on the sidewalk when Xi leaves town. Yeah, and it's true because it's true.
Use his own words against him. That's interesting. You threw in fake news, but then legitimized it with something that he truthfully said.
Which is rare.
Exactly.
That I'm the liar and that he is the truth person.
He's telling the truth, but not in a good way.
Yeah, horrible truth.
And she writes, as Miranda Devine, New York Post, everyone has seen the videos of addicts bent double in suspended animation or zonked out on the ground among the used needles and human excrement. TikTok algorithms make sure those videos are seen.
Yeah.
Ahead of Xi's visit, Chinese media outlets had great sport trashing San Francisco as, quote, this is a Chinese media, garbage city, ruined city, fallen city, total failure of a city. Apart from being an avoidable tragedy, America's deadly drug crisis makes us an international laughingstock, the marker of a civilization on the fast track to hell. You would think that an American president might be embarrassed about that fact, but far from it, Joe Biden thinks it's funny, too.
Yeah.
At a glittering fundraiser in downtown San Francisco Tuesday night, Biden began his speech by thanking Mayor London Breed for welcoming us to your city. It kind of sparkles right now, end of quote. The White House press office transcript indicates that laughter and applause greeted his observation.
Yeah.
Yes, the papering over of San Francisco squalor is a source of mirth and entertainment for high-dollar Biden donors who live there, or at least in California. Wow.
That's incredible.
The real estate magnate Clint Riley and his wife, who own the San Francisco Examiner, former Disney chairman Jeffrey Katzenberg, and former Mayor Willie Brown, Kamala Harris's old squeeze, reportedly paid as much as $200,000 apiece for the pleasure of seeing Biden speak that night.
Wow.
Biden's undeclared shadow rival for the presidential nomination, Governor Gavin Newsom, was there too, equally unashamed about the ease with which the city has been cleaned up for foreign communist VIPs, but never for the poor schmucks who can't escape to gated estates and chauffeured limousines.
Wow.
I know folks say, oh, they're just cleaning up this place because all these fancy leaders are coming to town, Newsom told reporters. When asked to explain this astonishing overnight transformation, Newsom said, well, that's true because
It's true.
it's true. That's one thing about today's Democrats. And there were a couple of articles yesterday that I read that just mirror exactly what we've been saying. And we've been sitting there going, why doesn't anybody else bring this up? Why doesn't anybody else bring this up?
Right.
But she goes, that's the thing about today's Democrats. They really don't care about the normal things that used to motivate politicians in the past, like clean streets, low crime, and a healthy economy.
You and I have been saying this for a while. That it used to be, remember, it used to be, we're going to fight crime. Law and order. We will have law and order. We will bring down crime in this city. That used to be one of the calling cards, by the way, for the left and the right. You couldn't go through a political season without that in your campaign. And now it's, you know what? Yeah, we're going to clean up the streets for China and not you. It's true because it's true. I'm telling you, somewhere in the landfill near San Francisco is a truck full of poop, and they're going to put it right back where it was. I'll bet you $1 on that. An American dollar, which goes pretty far these days, Jack.
And
Wow.
then she goes on just to talk about how he's up there talking about Bidenomics and how inflation is coming down, basically gaslighting left and right, and the applause, is there like, yay,
exactly.
yay. And then gets down to, because as we have said, basically, that you can, the goal of Republicans is to hit those major things right there and pound them over and over again. And she makes this great point that we made. This week, Rona McDaniel did the media rounds trying to justify last week's disappointments. Her solution is that candidates need to go on TV and talk more about abortion. Really? Democrats want nothing more than to turn the 2024 election into another abortion referendum. If they can't beat Joe Biden in a landslide, Republicans deserve Vivek Ramaswamy's insult of a party of losers.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Because that's and you and I talked about this. We've talked about it, but really in the last week we've brought it up more. It's almost as if Democrats have a dare.
Yeah.
Let's keep promoting things that obviously will hurt American citizens, make their life harder, promote insanity of that we have a secure border, promote the insanity of the radical transgender movement, promote the insanity because they're not, as even the administration, you saw what's happening. And it's funny, a couple of articles on deep state now coming up against Biden because Biden's riding that, trying to ride that, tightrope of the, Israel versus Hamas. And then there was another article written yesterday. I think it was National Review. We'll find that because it's something that we brought up. Why aren't Republicans going crazy about the fact that we are allowing Iran, that is the funder of all this terrorism and the invasion of Israel, and the killing of American citizens? I would have thought yesterday it would have been in unison, completely, totally, all day long. Every Republican talking about the fact, why is Biden allowing the refunding of Iran that is funding the terrorism and the killing of Americans? And nothing.
Nothing.
And finally, somebody else, I think it was National Review. I'll find that coming up here in just a little bit. I saw the headline and read a little bit of it, but it was mirroring exactly what we've been saying, that here you have everything that you possibly need. and you don't use it. Oh, also, I got to read Karl Rove with a column going, the abortion thing really isn't as big as Democrats are saying. We'll find out whether there's legitimacy to what he is saying or not, and saying, they're...
Well, you had kind of been saying for a while, especially with the recent decision, it was like, well, okay, that's not as big of a political driver, but it can be in states, but it's not what it once was. And then we, talked about the gay marriage decision, and all right, that's behind them. Basically going through what is the social issue of the day. But if going back to this assessment here of what's going on and the lack of outrage about Iran, what we have is misplaced outrage. Think about this. We have people in the U.S. marching to support Hamas and the eradication of Jews. And nobody's marching at the White House to defund Iran, to choke them out of the global economy, which we could do. We could do that. We could get with every trade partner on the planet and say, you don't buy their oil.
Well, we already know what their funding was under Trump once the attack started on U.S. U.S. military sites and trying and killing American soldiers. We know what happened at that point, and how we actually know the amount. We've gone through the amounts. It was down to $4 billion or whatever instead of. We know how much funding they're actually getting.
Right.
You can actually quantify it. You can point out and go, here's what they had, here's what they've got now. And it's like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what's wrong with Republicans. You and I talked about, Senator Mullen yesterday, wanting to fight the labor leader and, the Comer back and forth and screaming BS and everything else. And it's like, look, there's a place to question all these people, but you can win on the arguments alone. You don't need to sit there and be talking about, all right, since you said you'll challenge me, I'm going to fight you now. Stop it. They are children. Don't play into it. Don't be a child too.
And don't
be a damn adult.
Exactly. And if you're going to do things like that, also don't give me an empty promise. I want to see a cage match. Or shut up. Skin that smoke wagon or shut up.
Oh, God.
And that's where we are. I don't care about personality conflicts, but if it's gonna come to fisticuffs, I will pay pay-per-view to watch it. But you need to deliver. Make it happen. Or quit talking.
Look, you and I want to win. We pointed out the exercise in futility of Matt Gaetz and the other 8 Republicans.
Yeah.
All you showed the world was complete confusion. You never got what you want, and probably you probably got less than what you wanted now, and now you're quiet about getting rid of a speaker. So what was the whole damn point about that?
Exactly. The Senate, the Senate passes the stopgap thing tonight, and just a few hours ago it came across, and then I don't know, I can't remember who it was that had the headline on the alert, which sets up a contentious fight early next year. No, it doesn't. They'll kick the can again. Nothing's going to change because the GOP doesn't have the numbers.
Right. And so our goal has always been win, 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 win. And I'm sorry, this has been something that the Republican Party and the rank and file voter, for some reason, Republican voters get a high off of anger with no accomplishments and no winning.
And without doing math.
Yes.
When you don't...
I'm talking about the voter, too.
Right,
I'm talking about the Republican voter.
I know, because they get they're part of it, that if they're focused on these small things, the math has to be there. You have to understand, and you may be cheering your guy or gal for doing whatever they're doing, whether it's getting the Speaker of the House unseated or groping your boyfriend in front of Beetlejuice. You may be cheering them on. But the fact of the matter, neither one of those things gets us to a path even of victory. I'm now convinced This is what I'm thankful for. That the GOP is going to absolutely blow this in 24. What's interesting is what may actually happen is the pushback against Biden may be so great, and the support behind Trump has the potential, I won't say because it's not there now, if the support behind Trump, this would be interesting. We got to get Scott Rasmussen or Karl Rove or somebody on the phone to answer this. Do a poll for us and find out if there's any possibility of Trump outperforming some other GOPers in states. Remember, in 2016, some of those House seats, they outperformed him.
Yes.
That happened. We clearly know that happened in 2020. But I wonder if there's a potential of that turning around where he's outperforming them in certain states.
I'll put it this way.
I don't see it right now, but my point is, I don't see anything right now in the GOP that shows me, oh, man, this is going to be good for them in 2024. I can see that Trump is going to be the nominee. That's about all I can tell you.
I believe that right now that Republicans don't have it together. I don't know what they'll do in the next year. They have the absolute potential to blow it, but the Democrats also have a huge potential to blow it also. So I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah,
but I'm not
it every day. Yeah,
but I'm not happy at all with the Republicans on messaging. And we've gotten pushback from rank-and-file Republicans on a consistent basis where we have said, you've got to communicate the message to the independents. Otherwise, you don't win. And if you don't win, you don't get anywhere. But for some reason, there is this, I don't know what it is, this emotional nightmare, not with all Republicans, but with many Republicans, with enough of them that if the politician just expresses my anger, whether we win or not, that's what makes me happy.
Yeah. Well, for those who wanted to just, implode the whole thing and, destroy the GOP, well, it's happening.
866-90 Red Eye.
This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance. Cold temperatures and water can lead to only one outcome, and ice has no place in a truck's air system. That's why it's absolutely crucial to keep your air system moisture-free as temperatures begin to drop. If a vehicle didn't have an air dryer, the air system would be filled with that water, which can lead to dangerous and costly premature brake failures. To add insult to injury, if it's cold enough, that liquid will freeze, threatening air supply to various systems, including the transmission and suspension. Ice in the air system can also disable the compressor, for example, along with any of the air valves in the system. Make sure your air system is in top condition before plunging temperatures. Put it to the test.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up, Texas passes a law allowing state police to arrest and deport illegal immigrants. They know the federal government's going to.
They're waiting for the lawsuit.
There's going to be a lawsuit on this. I think they want it to go to the Supreme Court, but we'll break this down because this really directly goes after the Arizona Supreme Court decision when the conservatives didn't have the Supreme Court. We'll get to that. And we got so much today and tomorrow for the rest of the week.
It's crazy.
It is, really is.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Download our Red Eye Radio app today. You can listen when and where you want if you can't listen live overnight. Well, the House Homeland Security Committee held a hearing yesterday. Christopher Wray was there from the FBI, as was Mayorkas from Homeland Security. Just want to play, before we get to the story on Texas, because it has to deal with illegal immigration and what the state of Texas is doing. I just want to play a little bit of the back and forth between Representative Michael Guest and Mayorkas. Here we go.
One of my questions to you is, do you look at the daily encounter numbers that are put out by your department? Is that something, a statistic that you look at on a regular basis?
Vice Chairman Guest, it is, in fact, and the numbers about which you speak are reflective not only of a challenge at our southwest border, but rather a challenge of migration throughout our entire hemisphere.
And I understand that. And so you do look at the numbers. You do look at the daily reporting numbers. And want to harken back to an interview in 2019, at that time with former Secretary of Homeland Security Jay Johnson, during the Trump administration, as we were seeing 4,000 immigrants a day coming across the border. At that time, the former Director of Homeland Security, in an interview with MSNBC, said that, and he said, "My staff would tell you that if the number of daily apprehensions was under 1,000 the day before, that was a relative good number. And if it was above 1,000, it was a relative bad number, and I was going to be in a bad mood that day." He also went on to say on Thursday, and again, this was in March of 2019 when Donald Trump was president, there were 4,000 apprehensions. I know that if 1,000 overwhelms the system, I can't begin to imagine what 4,000 a day truly looks like. We are in a crisis. And so my question to you, if Secretary Johnson said 1,000 immigrants a day when he was in the position that you sent, if that was a bad day, and that 4,000 a day was a crisis, what is a bad day for you, Secretary Mayorkas? Because we see now that the numbers have exploded. They're no longer 1,000 a day. They're not even 4,000 a day when this article was written. They're over 11,000 a day. And so in the last 20 seconds, what number to you represents a bad day when we see the number of apprehensions increase dramatically? So I'll give you the remainder of my time to answer the question, and I'll yield back.
Vice Chairman Guest, we do not minimize the significance of the challenge at the southwest border, and we are intensely focused on it.
Is there a number? Would you like to give a number? I asked for a number. That was my question. What number to you represents a bad day? And are you refusing to answer the question?
Vice Chairman Guest, as I said, we do not minimize the significance of the challenge at the southwest border.
That wasn't my question, Mr. Mayorkas. I asked a simple question. Give me a number. And you're filibustering, and you're refusing to answer the question. What is that number?
I have answered your question.
No, you haven't, Mr. Mayorkas. You've not answered the question.
I can do hand signals at this point, right?
Mr. Ivey, if you let him answer the question, or maybe if you would like to answer for him, because clearly he does not intend to answer my question.
I think it's,
Is it not a fair question?
I'm just saying you're over your time. That's all.
We don't need any more points about over the time, okay? As I just sent to you, I think it was just last week I let Mr. Correa vote after we had gavelled out. I am gracious here, and I'll be gracious to both sides of the aisle.
And Mr. Chairman,
I
would
don't
ask
want any more interruptions about time being expired, please. Thank
Mr. Chairman, I would ask you to direct the
Jim-
witness to answer the question.
Do you have a number?
I have answered it to the best of my ability, Mr. Chairman.
And that's one of the problems that any casual watcher of this, of Mayorkas, would say he doesn't answer the questions.
No.
He filibusters.
Yep.
There seems to be no real anger or concern about what's going on at the border whatsoever.
And if we take him for his, for what he's saying as truth, which I don't, and he says I've answered it to the best of my ability, then you're grossly incompetent.
Yeah.
And I know the impeachment thing isn't going to happen, but you're grossly incompetent because you're either lying or you actually don't know, and you should.
Well, he's actually following the orders of his boss, the
Exactly.
President of the United States.
Exactly. And continuing the culture that they're all a part of.
Meanwhile, the Texas House passed legislation on Tuesday making it a state crime to illegally cross the southern border empowering state and local police to arrest and in some cases deport illegal immigrants in what the bill's supporters claim is a response to federal inaction. Claim? Well, it's a pretty solid claim, all right? I'll say that.
All right.
Senate Bill 4 gives local and state government the authority to arrest illegal immigrants who enter Texas from Mexico between official ports of entry. Under SB 4, those who unlawfully cross the border can be charged with a state misdemeanor and face up to 1 year in prison. A felony charge carrying a maximum sentence of 20 years can be leveled if illegal immigrants are charged with additional crimes or don't comply with a judge's order. The bill also authorizes state judges to deport illegal immigrants to Mexico rather than pursue prosecution under federal law. After getting approval from the Texas Senate last week, the latest version heads now to the governor's office, the governor's desk, where he is expected to sign it into law. Now, critics argue that the bill runs afoul of a decade-old Supreme Court ruling, Arizona versus the United States, which forbids states from implementing their own immigration laws. That responsibility is left entirely to the federal government, but Texas Republicans believe the ongoing border crisis necessitates state action. Republican Representative David Spiller, a sponsor of the bill, said that SB 4 intends to stop the flow of illegal immigration and that it is not designed to prevent legal immigrants from lawfully seeking asylum in the United States. The state lawmaker also claimed SB 4 is constitutional because it's not in conflict with Arizona versus the United States, despite Democrats' claim to the contrary. SB 4 intends to challenge the decades-long Arizona versus United States Supreme Court decision, given the new makeup of the United States Supreme Court, and we have seen, which we have seen has already overturned a 50-year-old long precedent with Roe v. Wade. Democratic State Representative Victoria Carrero said. Spiller argued he is not attempting to overturn the Supreme Court decision. This is interesting because I'd like to see, they don't have in this article a National Review specifically why, because I do think that there will be, you're going to have some federal court come in and, you know, put a stay or some kind of injunction on this. Yeah. And it's going to move up the courts. The question that it brings up, and you and I have said this many times, when you look at the makeup of this country, which really, as you've seen, the federal government was never intended to have the scope of responsibility and the impact on the states as they have now. That was never the intent of the Founding Fathers. We all know that. Mm-hmm. Now, we know that through Supreme Court precedent over the years that the federal government now wants to be involved in every little stinking aspect of your life, which was not the original intent.
Right.
States were supposed to be able to, you know, under federalism, do a ton of their own things, and the federal government was there to protect the Bill of Rights, the individual Bill of Rights, and, you know, that were clearly stated, you know, in the Constitution, and do things interstate, excuse me. Is it? Yeah, interstate. Mm-hmm. Be interstate, right?
Yeah, interstate. Mm-hmm.
Interstate regulation, stuff like, you know, things like that, and national defense. It's gone way past that. But one of the things that you look at and you say, okay, border security. Okay, yeah, okay, that would be the United States, and the United States, you know, should be the ones, the federal government should be the one to do that. Most people would look at it. Mm-hmm. But what about when the federal government actually does not obey the law and claims that they have an exemption not to obey the law and twist the law that creates absolute chaos for states?
Right.
Because you look at this to this level, I don't know of any type of federal action. There may be something, you know, that I'm not thinking of, but in modern times, I have not seen anything like this from the federal government advocating their responsibility to secure the border because there are legal means to get in to the United States, and letting everybody in and then stay for as long as they want until sometime in the future they can see a judge is not what the intent of the federal law on border security was ever meant to be.
Right.
And so you ask the question, if it hasn't got to the courts yet to change that, where the federal government is forced to do their job, or Congress, passes a law that has no loophole for the federal government anymore, because what we found out is Congress will pass a law and they will do it with a very good intent. That here's the law, but we're going to give the federal government some leeway here because we don't know what's going to happen. Well, they've completely abused that power.
Yeah.
As we have seen. And so they've abused that power, but even more than that, if you even take that out of that and go, well, no, they have the right to do that. Well, if the federal government decides to do something, even if it's legal, which harms a state, which there's no doubt, you cannot make the case that it hasn't harmed Texas, it hasn't harmed Arizona, it hasn't harmed California, it hasn't harmed New York, it hasn't harmed Chicago.
Right.
And the federal government isn't saying we're going to pay for all of this.
Right.
They're simply saying you people deal with it, and there's no recourse.
Right.
The hell that these border towns are going through, we don't care.
Right.
I would look at it as a Supreme Court justice and say, if the federal government is not going to do their job to secure the border, which is their job, and they're not going to do it, that the states do have a recourse.
Well, and I would argue the same, because you look at it, it creates an immediate danger for the citizens of that state. This is what happened when the Obama administration was suing Arizona under the leadership of Governor Jan Brewer at the time, and they were basically saying, well, no, and this is where it came back. The states don't have a right to protect their people. How is it that they can't protect because the only way to protect them from this kind of danger, the dangers of people coming across the border illegally, and a great deal of those individuals that are coming across with the help of the cartels or are themselves members or workers for the cartels. And when you look at that kind of danger that border states have been dealing with for a very long time, that is only growing by the minute. If we don't allow states to protect their borders, if we don't allow them to protect their citizens, then tell me what they can do. They tied the hands of the people of Arizona and the leaders of Arizona and law enforcement of Arizona.
Because you can't make the case that the states aren't being harmed by the federal government policy.
In fact, I would say right now, not that they didn't have a case in Arizona. They clearly had a case, and it was a danger then. But it's right now you can demonstrate so many dangers right now, more than ever. You just can't make a case against that. The states have a right to do this.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. And I really think, Eric, that the state of Texas wants to put this before the Supreme Court because it's something that's really never been tested before in modern times. I'd have to go back in history to see if there's a state that said the federal government is destroying our cities by doing this or something. But this is
from that angle, right?
Yeah, this is such a unique thing.
Right.
What rights do states have to protect themselves when the federal government advocates their responsibility and actually harms American citizens?
Right.
And
And I think it could be also an effort to not just stand up for, in this case, Texas, stand up for themselves. The ACLU of Texas, by the way, has already promised to file the lawsuit. I'm sure there will be multiple lawsuits, but
against it.
Against it. And so when this comes down, I think it's also going to be about trying to have the Supreme Court rule. I don't know if they will on like the asylum law. Or the asylum rule that they created that basically just say the word asylum and you get in. That's the one thing Texas can't get around, and that's going to be a problem. But I think hopefully that will be addressed in the lawsuit at the Supreme Court. I'm hopeful.
Top of the Hour News is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. Good morning. He's Eric Harley and I'm Gary McNamara. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you a lot.
I got a text message from my best friend Jeff yesterday, who I've known for years.
Oh, okay.
And it was just like, he's like, what sources are you using for the news? I mean, it just came out of nowhere. And I'm just like, it sounded, when I read it first, I go, is this accusatory? Was he listening to the podcast? And he, and I went, what you talking about? What's going on here?
Right.
What's going on here, Willis?
Yeah.
And he just says, I just want to know. He goes, what sources do you use? Do you trust? And it was really interesting because I gave him a call then. And I said, well, if you want to know what I use for the show, I said, the list would be too long.
Right.
Because we scan everything.
Yeah.
We scan, and I went through and I said, well, all the major news, places we go through, I said, but probably what we focus on more is we love talking the ideas, whether it's economics or politics or where you're going. I said, we actually love, to look at editorials and op-ed pieces to see, for example, not necessarily, I said, sometimes if we believe that the right is not arguing correctly, we'll find an article and address that. Or if they are, if they're addressing something correctly, and we're because we've criticized them we did in the first hour, the Republicans for not, for not messaging correctly, we'll hit whoever's doing the op-ed piece. And if they're doing it well, we'll say, okay, they've done it really well. And I said, but when it comes to, and when I thought about this, I told you this in our pre-show meeting, I went, wow, it's really amazing. I said, when it comes to who is actually articulating conservative principles, not necessarily Republican principles, because Republican principles are not always conservative.
Right.
They can be populist. At times they can be liberal. But I said, who is best at it? And I said, not that I always agree with them. And I said, but probably right now, if you look at it, I said, the people that are articulating conservative principles better than ever right now, all of them were loyal Democrats 5 years ago. Except for example, the Wall Street Journal and National Review. And I said, I don't always agree with it's the Wall Street Journal editorial page, not the news division, which is liberal.
Yeah, to be clear, yes.
It is the Wall Street Journal editorial page. Not that I always agree with them, but they're not going to give an opinion on something that isn't true.
Right.
And the same thing with National Review. They're not going to, any of their writers, they have a variety of writers, and some of them at times go populist. And I don't agree with all of the writers there all of the time, but you can at least look at it and say, all right, they're actually giving their opinion on an issue. They're not trying to they're not attempting to gaslight. They're not attempting to take an issue and argue a different point to justify an issue. I said, but if you want to look at right now, because they've been around for a while, they've been institutions, but you look at it right now, and the people that are articulating conservative principles and real-world solutions are, as we have stated the last couple of days, Matt Taibbi, liberal. Michael Schellenberger, liberal. Barry Weiss, former New York Times reporter.
Yeah.
And then her new media outlet, the Free Press. Since Biden has been in office, since really of October of 2020, and they were all part of the Twitter files, but they and Jonathan Turley, you want to throw him in there, they're all Democrats.
Yeah, right.
And they are actually, you take that group together, they're actually promoting conservative principles. To me, as a whole, not that there aren't conservatives out there promoting conservative ideas, but they're really getting a lot of attention, and they're getting down and dirty into the minutia of it. But as I said, if I said, which is really amazing for me saying that, because always in my back of my mind is, are they trying to manipulate me in some way?
What are they getting at?
Once a liberal, always a liberal. And it's like, did they, have they really changed? And I mentioned, for example, at the ARC conference in Great Britain that Jordan Peterson put on, and then Barry Weiss spoke to the Federalist Society. That was a great speech that she gave there here in the last week. And then Schellenberger speaking at the ARC conference. He was just great on climate change. I mean, he was just great on climate change, going point by point by point. Where I came into you the other day and I said, wow. I said, the one thing on our side is the money, because they can't continue to subsidize this. But the other thing is the people that are articulating against it right now, they're so good. They are so good right now.
And they go straight to the core. That's exactly what we look for outside of the media. Someone who's not they're not a writer, but it's somebody who is in the media and is very active and speaking out on matters of the law. Alan Dershowitz, and
yes,
those are the things where you break it down and go, okay, exactly what is their point? Now, Alan Dershowitz, again, a longtime Democrat, still a Democrat.
And Turley's still a Democrat, from what I know.
And you break down what they're saying. We always, again, we don't take anything for its face value just because a certain person wrote it or a certain publication posted it. It has to go to the core of what the ideas are, what the law is, what the issue is. And that's something that we've always done. And I don't think that I could ever change from doing that. I'm not going to just read something and on the surface say, all right, I believe it. Because, as you mentioned, there are times, whether it's somebody in National Review or anywhere else that may be a conservative, and they issue a piece on something, and I may have an issue with it. So those, for me, that's the only approach. I'm not going to get into the whole team player tribal thing because it's somebody in National Review, because it's somebody, it's the editorial board at the Wall Street Journal. They all do a great job, and most of the time I agree with them, but it comes down to this. Can I debate their point? Can I debate the points that they are making? And sometimes we can, and we don't see eye to eye on it. And other times, most of the time, they make it very clear to understand. Which goes back to our founders. Our founders did not intend any of this to be difficult. Lawyers along the way wanted to create this new language. This is one of the issues that we have with changing the definition of words, especially today. And they all believe, because they all go to law school and then run for office. And the idea is to learn the law so you can manipulate the law. That's the entire idea. If you don't agree with the Constitution, if you don't agree with the very foundation of our nation, then the only way to undermine it is to learn it first and then go in and try and deconstruct it. And those are the things that we look for. The points that they're making. Can we debate it? Can you debate it? Do you agree or disagree, and why? And it's important from our perspective to also issue why we believe what we believe. If we're debating something, we don't just say we disagree and leave it on the table. We disagree, here's why.
And we never say, for example, I agree with it because Bush does.
Right.
Just
the
using
tribal thing.
Right, exactly.
The team player thing.
We don't do that. And as you heard in the first hour, we have no problem criticizing Republicans. And we know there are other talk shows that don't do it. I mean, other talk shows will stick and, they're more Republican talk shows and they want to get the Republican guests on, and they know if they criticize them too hard that they won't come on. And that's fine. You can do that. I mean, you can do whatever you want. What we've decided to do is tell you what we think.
Yeah.
And tell you and basically argue on things that are the truth. You may disagree with us, but we're always arguing and debating what the actual truth is, and we don't argue a point by bringing up another point. And
right,
we never argue, for example, and I know this is a criticism of other shows that people have told us and complimented us and said, I'm glad you don't do that. When somebody sits there and says, well, why are the Republicans doing it? You guys don't say, well, the Democrats are doing that. You address why Republicans are doing it and whether it's right or wrong, and you don't sit there and try to make the comparison to what Democrats are doing.
Yeah, but argument.
Right, and we refuse to do that because somebody's got to be out there, and our niche is we're just going to tell you the truth and what we feel as individuals promoting conservative libertarian ideas, which we tell you specifically what they are. And to me, that's the one thing. There's so much BS going around right now that we don't want to be part of that.
Well,
we don't want to.
That's it. It just becomes tribal and team player attitude the whole time. Look, the GOP is going to have to get their messaging together. But as we mentioned when the whole thing on the speaker was going down, I don't have a problem that Matt Gaetz has a problem with Kevin McCarthy or vice versa or anybody else. But a personality conflict is something that I just don't think is, in fact, I know is not relevant. And if you disagree with someone, also your remedy is that's the only thing I disagreed with, the disruption. Because if you want to, as a conservative, say, we've got to do this, then that's something you have to stay on. That's something you have to be consistent on. But if your remedy is going to be to, light the fuse and walk away, then nothing will get done. And nothing will change because your remedy isn't an actual remedy for the bigger problem, and that is that Republicans right now don't have the power.
But as I was telling my buddy Jeff, it was interesting that he just came out of the blue and asked me, what are the media sources you trust? And I said, well, what I look at is more, I don't know if I look at it that way. I look at what media outlets, because there's enough places where you can find out what the truth is. The thing you search for are good opinions and bad opinions because they both can be used in a talk show, because then you're discussing, the ideas. To give you a quick example, when Comer started arguing with Moskowitz, was it, of Florida yesterday, the Democrats, who was attacking James Comer for saying, well, you lent your brother money, and that's the same thing you're accusing Biden of doing, which you say is wrong and immoral. Well, then he started saying BS, using the actual word, and we said, you didn't need to do that.
Yeah, it's not necessary.
You can argue the point because it's not about loaning your brother money. It's about your brother paying you back from the Chinese.
Right.
This isn't hard to argue and win that, and you need to stay focused. And Comer didn't stay focused, and we went after Mullen yesterday for challenging the labor leader, basically to a fight because of what the labor leader had put apparently on social media, implying that he would fight him. Stop the stupidity. Be a damn adult.
Right.
And I think that's, and again, it gets back to part of the problem with the Republican Party right now. And I mean, some of the voters, and that you'd rather be angry and just abide or be loyal to somebody who is angry, and the anger and the rage is what drives you, instead of winning elections and being able, if you win an elections, then to enact change through law and legislation. And that bothers me because it exists out there and I see it, and it doesn't get us anywhere.
No, I mean, it's
personality. By the way, as conservatives.
Yeah, and personality conflicts. I of course you have a problem with a labor leader and the guy is squirrely. I get down. It's a missed opportunity, both with Comer and Mullen.
They're missed opportunities, what they are.
You should be able to demonstrate, and that's what I pointed out yesterday. I just want the American people to know the kind of guy this is. I want to read the tweets that he tweeted at me, which are laughable. He's a child, and I'm going to read him out loud here, just so you know the kind of person we're dealing with today.
Right, yeah, exactly.
And then leave it at that, and don't give him that power. And again, if you're going to make the promise of a fight, then I want to see it. Cage match, pay-per-view. Make it happen.
866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
Independents with carrier authority should be mindful that negotiation strength varies as the week progresses. Typically, the highest rates across major segments are paid for loads negotiated on Sundays, and the highest volume of loads for all segments is seen on Mondays. Also, the weekday that tends to be the best for flatbed negotiations, yielding the best rates. Owner-operators tend to have less negotiation strength on Tuesday, which shows the lowest weekday spread between brokers' offered rates and actual paid rates. Broker offers tend to rise by Wednesday as the end of the week is in sight. This day also seems optimal for the 3 o'clock hustle, so-called for its reliance on that afternoon time of day, when brokers are getting nervous, to improve negotiation strength. Stay mindful of this system to maximize your revenue. Brought to you by Shell Rotella, with advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. By the way, just a note about the Texas law that was passed that said, all right, the state of Texas is going to start, in certain cases, deporting illegal immigrants. Now, by the way, that isn't migrants who come in and have legal status. This is at the border when they cross. All right, just to make it clear. And so, but I think it is. I want to say it again because I think this is the important part of it, because it doesn't matter whether I think legally it's not a case of whether this is the federal government's policy or whether the administration is stretching the law. It really doesn't matter. It's that the federal government, whether a court finds it legit or not, by their actions are absolutely harming states, border states, that have no recourse, and it's intentional. The federal government knows it's harming the state of Texas, knows that it is harming every single border state, knows that it is harming liberal bastions, Chicago, New York City, that this is actually harming these cities, the budgets of these cities, the finances of these cities, creating the chaos in these cities that just haven't been seen, I believe, ever when it comes to illegal immigration in this country, or the policy set by the federal government. And I do think there is a great case based on originalist thinking of the Constitution that the federal government has a role, but there's nowhere in the Constitution that says the federal government can enact laws that, whether they, because I'm saying that if all of this is completely legal and that jury is still out, but even if it's completely legal what they're doing, if they do something that is harmful to states, do the states have no recourse at all?
I believe they do.
I believe they do, too.
On your smart speaker, say, play Red Eye Radio. And, if you're really nice, she might. Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Hey, Babs is back in the news.
Okay.
She's going to move to England now.
Oh, all right.
If Trump is reelected, she's moving to England.
Okay.
Wasn't she gone? Wasn't she supposed to be gone in 2004?
Yep. And
thought so.
that didn't happen. I think she said something about that in 2016, and that didn't happen. So, and I saw a headline, something about her much anticipated memoir.
Yeah.
Did I miss out on the anticipation thing?
You and I did.
Yeah.
So now we have Cher, because Cher said in October she's leaving if Trump is elected. So Cher is leaving.
Babs is leaving. Well, who are we going to go see if we want to go see a really old female singer then? Who's left?
Well, that hasn't been on my bucket list.
I was like, what are the things I want to do? Really old female singers. Well, there's only a handful left. I mean, I know Pink is getting older. She's not really old. I have my standards. Hello. They got to be at least 90. So you got Babs, Cher. Are they 90 yet? I don't know. I don't keep up with their age.
Grandma Gaga?
No, thanks.
But people that don't know, that's Madonna.
Yeah.
That's Grandma Gaga.
Yeah, no, thanks.
No, I don't. It's just, we've been, something? I have nothing to say anymore about these things because we've dealt with it so many times before, and they always stay.
Why is it that they feel? Is that a threat? Is it supposed to be some kind of leverage? If the American people do this, then I'm leaving.
You'll suffer. I'm gone.
I don't get that attitude. They're just waiting around for the world to go, no, please don't.
Please, Babs, stay.
Because my response will be, oh, no, please don't forget all of your stuff when you go. And please don't let the door hit you.
I'll still say this because it's the holidays now. I think about it all the time. And my parents had the record. Still one of my favorite all-time female performances of anything Christmas related, because it was on a Christmas album, was Streisand singing Ave Maria. As a kid, I just remember, from a kid, my parents had that. And I just remember it, and it was just sung.
I bought my mom a 45 of Evergreen, the song Evergreen, when I don't know what year that was. I was a kid for her birthday. I've actually purchased Barbra Streisand music. I don't think it was with my own money because unless it was my allowance.
For
maybe.
your mom.
Mm-hmm. For my mom.
Yeah.
No, I immediately gave it away.
You were doing that, and my brother was buying me the guillotine.
Yeah. Exactly. By the way, you know what else? I heard part of the Dolly Parton rock album. Because when it came out, it was like, oh, okay. But then you have to quickly remember how talented Dolly Parton actually is. I mean, it's not, you shouldn't ever forget that. She's a very good and capable singer. And I listened to a couple of the songs and I'm like, it's the Dolly version, but it's like, okay. It's not like, when Pat Boone did a metal album. Oh, we're not gonna take it. No, we ain't gonna. Everyone was like, okay, Pat, no, you don't do that. And take the leather off, would you? Go get dressed.
Well, he was dealing with, remember, he was dealing with the backlash from his daughter.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
After You Light Up My Life, for 10 years, the Boones were Poison.
Yeah.
So it's like, all right, let's start singing Poison.
Well, and here's the thing, because I thought about it, because when I heard those two songs, I was like, all right, because it quickly came to my mind, the whole Pat Boone thing. And I thought, well, there are a couple of things. Dolly Parton doesn't need to reinvent herself.
No, she doesn't.
And while it's not exactly the same as Johnny Cash, doing the song Hurt, which immediately became his song. Oh, my gosh. The emotion of him singing that song is one of the heaviest things you will ever hear. But Dolly Parton hits the notes. She, she delivers. It's incredible.
Well, but Johnny Cash, again, that he wasn't reinventing himself by doing that.
No,
if he did Head Like
he didn't. Yeah, he didn't come out
right. If he did Head Like a Hole from Nine Inch Nails, that would have been,
or the other Nine Inch Nails song that we can't mention on the air.
Yes, but I can't hear Johnny Cash bow down. Maybe you could if he sang it slow. Bow down before the one you serve. You're going to get what you deserve. Maybe he could pull it off.
You know what? In my mind, I was actually listening in my mind to Johnny Cash do the song from Tool, The Pot. And if you know the song, it starts out a cappella.
Mm-hmm.
And Johnny Cash, if he had been able to cover that song maybe a little bit slower, maybe not quite as heavy, it would have worked. It would, and I'm thinking, my gosh. And that's when I heard the Dolly versions, it was like, all right, okay. It's not, again, it was not like and I think Pat Boone, it was all tongue in cheek. It was meant to be kind of funny. But with Dolly, she's just always that person. I'm going to do a rock album.
Yeah,
okay.
I didn't view that as her trying to reinvent herself. It was just having
No,
fun.
that's my whole point. That's what I was saying.
Yeah.
She doesn't ever have to reinvent herself.
No, Pat Boone did though.
Yeah. Well,
he didn't. No, he didn't.
He was doing it for publicity, and he was doing it tongue in cheek. He wasn't really.
I know.
He wasn't. Although he did get from the Grammys Metal Album of the Year that year, and of course
he did not.
Jethro Tull.
Did he really?
Was angry? No, I'm making the Jethro Tull joke.
Oh, God, the Jethro
when they beat out Metallica for Metal Album of the Year.
I know. It's like,
are you kidding me? The guy stands on one leg and has a flute.
Well, you know that
Jethro Tull guy.
By the way, I did like early Jethro Tull. You know where Jethro
Yeah,
Tull
sure.
lost me? Bungle in the Jungle.
Yeah.
That
Oh.
was, I'm
Yeah,
done.
no.
I was like, okay.
I cannot stand that song
You know,
because I heard it so much.
Aqualung, I never bought any stuff, but when Aqualung came out and I was a kid,
Yeah.
or younger, a teenager when that came out, I could listen to that. But when Bungle in the Jungle came out when I was in college, I was like, no.
Yeah.
No, it's like, and I understand that it's a song, but when Eric Clapton did I Shot the Sheriff, I'm like, nah.
Yeah.
It didn't
Yeah.
fit for me. There's just some genres that don't. But now, could Johnny Cash do Half Breed or Gypsies, Tramps, and Thieves?
I don't know why he'd want to.
Since Cher's leaving. Cher's leaving the country, too. So
Yeah.
Cher's leaving, and if Trump is elected, and so is Babs. So that's.
Yeah.
Do you care if they leave? 866-90 Red Eye. I'm kidding. I don't want any goals.
It's just so weird. I'm leaving.
I'm staying, no matter what.
You're going to have to remove my love for this country from my cold, dead hands.
Yeah, I'm dying here. I'm not going anywhere. I don't care who's in. It's that's the last thing I would do. I would feel if it was like somebody's elected president, I'm leaving. Number one, it's like, are you a narcissist looking for attention? Because nobody gives a damn if you leave, Gary.
Right.
But the first thing would be, no, I'm an American.
Right.
I'm an American. I'm going to die an American.
Well,
I'm not going to, I believe in the Constitution, and I'm not going anywhere. And I would feel like a coward just by stating something like that.
It's just so weak. It really is in the same arena as Mitt Romney announcing in the media saying Mitt Romney is standing down. He was never standing up. Tell me what he actually stands for.
It's like Mitt Romney standing down as if there was this incredible,
like the whole world,
incredible tension.
Right.
Is Romney going to run or not?
His much anticipated memoir and whether or not he's going to run for president in 24. Just give me a break. Nobody was asking him, and nobody was asking Chris Christie. Let's be clear.
I'm trying to think. I'm sitting here trying to think, should I do a memoir? But no, I'm on the radio every day.
I can't remember. I don't know. I would have to just make it up, not because I'm a liar, just because I don't remember all of it.
Tell the truth of what I'm. Gary McNamara, a tell-all behind the scenes of Red Eye Radio.
Well, I mean,
what really happened?
I have the first line from my book. I was born at an early age. From there, I don't know.
No, we'd have to be a tell-all behind the scenes, what really happened behind the scenes at Red Eye Radio. Oh, I was telling you that I was seeing there was an article out, and it was some local team talk show hosts that have decided not to run, and there was an analysis in the trades about, people that do, like partner radio, like we do.
Yeah.
And the things that can break it up and the jealousies and everything else. and I told you yesterday, and we just sort of laughed. It's like, we don't even think about that. We just come in, and we really do. I mean, people, they always think there must be something more behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And there's not.
It's nothing. It's
guys,
boring.
there's got to be something more to it.
Well,
no, there isn't.
That's actually my fear. Is that if they ever came up with like a okay, hey, how about an idea for a YouTube channel behind the scenes? Well, number one, boring. But that's my fear. Is that because you ever give somebody a tour of a radio station you worked at or something, and then they go, oh, I thought it would be different. Right. And that's what I imagine any given person, if we just gave them access to behind the scenes, they would go, oh, that's it? Really? Oh, okay. And then you just get in your cars and go home?
I remember one time when I was doing my local show, my nephew was staying with me, so he actually stayed in the show. He went out and fell asleep in the jock lounge.
That's exactly what it would be. After about the first 20 minutes.
Yeah, he came in, he listened for like 10 minutes and went, all right, I'm going to go catch some Z's.
Yeah.
Where can I sleep? And I
Yeah.
go, there's a couch over here. You
Yeah. I remember being in a cabin with my brother. We were on vacation in the mountains together, just me and him, a fishing trip. And there was breaking news, so I called into the shows before you were on the show. And I called into the show that night just to give my take on it and did one segment. And my brother was kind of smiling. He had never seen me work. We were sitting there in the room, and I was calling in from my phone. And then, you know, I did the lockout and ended the call and the whole thing. And he goes, oh, that was cool. And he goes, then right after that, I'm going to bed.
866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up on the top of the hour. As we said after the election, we said don't read as much into it as you heard, especially the left pounding on it because you saw how quickly that disappeared. The celebration and Biden celebrating with the election results, and this means that the Democrats have so much of a great chance. And all of a sudden, a couple of days later, it's like, oh man, Biden's in real trouble, and nobody is now referring back to the election of this year and stating that it's going to have anything to do with what's happening next year in the presidential election. But taking a look at the actual numbers, for example, in Virginia, as we had talked about before, someone delved deeper into the numbers, and you'll want to hear this coming up next.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, good morning. We are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. All right. So we had the election day last week and a lot of the analysis of it. And I said the day after, maybe it was the night when the results came in, I said, this now will encourage Biden not to even think about dropping out because they were celebrating the next day as if this was an indicator that, okay, people love what Biden is doing and the Democrats are doing by the election results. And we said, don't read that much into it. By the time we got to the weekend, last weekend, that was gone completely. And there was panic from the Democrats. And not only are they reading some of the polls, but they also have their own internal polling. And you and I were just looking at the latest Fox News poll. And there was a poll that we brought you last week, I forgot who did it, that showed that Nikki Haley, surprisingly, would beat Biden better than DeSantis or Trump.
Yeah.
Now a new Fox poll out. And again, we're a year out, but it does give you an indication because this is now the second poll in a row that shows Nikki Haley doing the exact same thing. And then the question is, what does it mean? Trump would beat Biden 50-46. DeSantis would beat Biden 50-45. Nikki Haley would beat Biden 52-41. I asked you, I said, even in a hypothetical a year out, I'm trying to remember any Republican possible nominee that was defeating an incumbent Democrat by 9 points and 11. I think those are the two polls, 9 and 11 points. Even a year out, I don't remember it. What I do think it gives an indication of, because that's a pretty wide swing, Is it independents are willing to give Republicans a shot?
What I would love to know is, because we said it last week with the other poll. Clearly, this is the independents. And it tells you something about where the other GOP primary candidates are. But nobody is trouncing Trump in the primary.
No.
Frank Luntz made this case, I think, on CNN. And he was talking, it was about where the party is. He says, look, no one's going to beat Trump in the primary, but a number of them can beat Biden. And some of them are outperforming Trump in a head-to-head with Biden in the polls. And now we're seeing that play out here in this other poll from Fox News with Nikki Haley. We're a year out, but it's, again, we're not putting, to be clear, because I can already hear them typing the email, we're not saying that you should believe everything in this poll. What we look for in a poll is the movement and also consistency between different pollsters.
Right.
And that's it. And so if it is the case that independents are okay with a Nikki Haley, number one, I would love to see why the independents believe that. Is it because they believe she's more of a moderate? They like her personality. They like, I'm very curious about that. But there's no way around the fact that right now she trails Trump by, I don't know, 30, 35 points in
even in no, because in the
primary?
In the same Fox News poll, Trump 62, DeSantis 14, Haley 11.
Yeah, okay.
So
51 points.
Yeah, so
and things can change. I don't see that changing. Because what would have to change? Here's typically what would happen, and nothing is typical about this entire process anymore. But in the past, typically what could play out is that some GOP voters start to see it and they say, oh, wait, that person is the person that can for sure beat Biden, and that's what's more important. That I don't see happening here with a Nikki Haley while Trump is in the race.
Well, I think that Haley has this lead. Again, I'm taking liberties here, but I think Haley has the lead because of independence, because she's viewed as
moderate.
Not moderate, not offensive. I think that DeSantis comes. I'm talking about that part of the independents where personality means everything.
Yeah.
And so, you actually see Trump does better than DeSantis. They don't like DeSantis. He's too blunt. He's too direct.
And he's also too controversial.
He's too controversial,
even
right,
though
with the
on
issues.
The issues, when you look at what he's done in Florida, it's only controversial because the liberals lie about what he's done.
Right. But imagery matters, and they say, okay, she seems to be more moderate and nice. I think, but it does show you, because I've not seen numbers like that ever, it shows you the opportunities that Republicans have.
As a party?
As a party across the board, because Trump is most likely to be the nominee, that there is an opportunity that independents, by a huge margin, are looking for a reason not to vote for Democrats, which is why in the first hour we were screaming at the well, not screaming, but we were just being passionate about wanting Republicans to focus in on a message, because you can win. I mean, those are landslide numbers.
Yeah, that's a trouncing.
Right.
If an election fell that way, that's landslide.
Now, you still have undecided in there, but still an 11-point lead. Now, in what I found interesting was Fox is finally somebody finally did. It's the first one, the 5-way race, and this would be Trump, Biden, Kennedy, Manchin, and Jill Stein.
And this is important because Jill Stein is likely to take from Democrats.
Yes. Now, Trump wins in the five-way matchup.
Okay.
He gets 40.
All right.
Biden gets 35. Kennedy gets 13.
That's wow. That's crazy.
Manchin gets 5. Stein gets 4. Now, I don't buy that Stein would actually get 4 in a five-way race.
No, if Manchin gets 5, Stein does not get 4.
No, Stein got a 1% the last time she ran.
Yeah.
So she'd get 4 times the amount. Now, maybe, though, because the far left is so upset at Biden, maybe she could. Because when I read, we'll get the article later on, that the deep state now going after Biden, and this is the whole letter that they wrote.
Mm-hmm.
The whole letter of the deep state now is not just the intelligence agencies. The deep state now expanded to the bureaucrats that are liberal, and the culture of corruption that exists, and the culture of having insane opinions, where we now find the 400 to 500, whatever it was, members of the Biden administration, bureaucrats, appointees that are pro-killing Americans.
Mm-hmm.
And they believe that Biden is a radical in his position for riding the tightrope with Israel.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're pro-Hamas.
Mm-hmm.
That's how radical, that's how radical they are. And don't think that that independents don't look at it. And that's why if we get frustrated, and we will continue to get frustrated probably over the next year with Republicans, is because Miranda Devine in the New York Post wrote it. This is open for you.
Yeah.
It's so open. I mean, they're in, go for it, focus, communicate correctly, stop the infighting, and you can have a huge victory. And I think that's the one thing that you wonder when you look at this. And I say wonder because, again, one poll or 2 polls is not definitive, but when you haven't seen it before. And I think what it shows with Nikki Haley is the fact that independents are very open to a Republican message because they already look at the Democrats and go, nah.
Well, that's it. And to Miranda Devine's point, you and I have been looking at it, and the GOP seems to be losing its will to debate. The left doesn't want to debate because they can't win a debate. And with the infighting, you can debate. A Kevin McCarthy could debate a Matt Gaetz and vice versa, but they don't have the will to do it. And there's a difference between infighting and debating each other. And you debate in the halls, maybe behind closed doors, but right now when we're at this crossroads, because if we don't choose the right road now, we never will. When we have pro-Hamas protesters in the states, when we have a broken border, when we have a broken economy, when we have no commander-in-chief to speak of, when we're just right now as vulnerable as we can be as a nation, if we don't choose the right road now, I'm confident we never will. And frankly, that falls on the GOP, and they better get it together, but I just don't have the confidence they will. And it's really simple. You win on the ideas and the issues right now because the issues are, you talk about the baggage that the left carries right now.
I mean,
it's insane.
The riot outside DNC
headquarters, yeah.
Well, excuse me, the insurrection?
Yeah, exactly. Let's get it straight, right? Hey, that's if they want to use that language, we can use that language. That's exactly what it is, but according to their definition.
I mean, that was pretty scary. You had Democrats saying we couldn't get out. We were locked in and could not get out.
Right.
Think about the insanity now of the pro-Hamas, pro-beheading babies, pro killing Americans and holding American hostages. Protesters, which are a part of the Democratic Party.
Yep.
And we know it now based on the letter and the memo that was being passed around that over 400 to 500 members that are Democrats inside the Biden administration with their pro-Hamas message to Biden.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how scary it is. And we've been warning everyone how radical it's been since Obama was in, what these people actually think. And I don't think a lot of America took it seriously.
Nope.
And now you're seeing it right at your front door.
Right.
And Democrats now are seeing it right at their front door.
Literally their front door.
Their front door.
The DNC headquarters. And what that is, that's the radicals telling the party, you better get in line with us.
Right. You created identity politics. You're the ones that judge people by the group that they're in and not individuals. You're the ones that taught us to demonize individuals, to demonize groups of people. You're the ones that taught us about, to demonize groups and, through critical race theory. You're the ones that taught us to demonize blacks that are conservative. And now you're backing off now?
You made us the monsters that we are.
Right.
And you programmed us to burn the entire place down, and you won't help us do it?
People think Republicans have a problem. Democrats have a bigger problem
and
right
it's
now.
Playing out every single day.
And I think it's when you look at, those numbers there, you sit there and go, independents are looking to dump Democrats. Give them a reason. Be very clear. Just tell them what they already know and that you're against it.
Point.
And do it in a unified way,
Yep.
and you win big.
Yep.
866-90 Red Eye.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
Hey, it's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Hurley, and I'm Gary McNamara. I know he's been called a rhino and everything else, but Karl Rove had a op-ed piece. I mean, what does a rhino mean these days?
Right.
As I said last week, or this week, and said many times before, whenever I'm called a rhino, you're absolutely right. Mm-hmm. I'm much more conservative than where the Republican Party is going. But as he did an analysis on Virginia,
okay.
and it's don't believe the hype about abortion. It's its importance in last week's election for state office has been vastly overstated. There's a tendency in politics to ascribe success and failure to one thing when it's really more complicated. That has been the case with more coverage of last week's election. Abortion issue burns the GOP, screamed ABC News. Democrats see big wins, shouted Roll Call, which said access to abortion was front and center. The key example offered for this line of reasoning was Virginia's state legislative elections, in which Democrats held the Senate, losing only one seat, and flipped the House by picking up 3. Vox's Rachel Cohen described the results in Virginia and elsewhere as a resounding victory for Democrats and abortion rights supporters. But is holding a 21-19 majority in the Senate and a 51-49 majority in the House really a resounding victory? I think not. Virginia is a blue state that Biden carried 54-44 in 2020. Last week, Republicans won in 7 House districts Mr. Biden carried in 2020 by up to 10 points, and 4 Senate districts that he won up to 9 points. Democrats did not flip a single district that Donald Trump took. These margins don't fit with the notion that abortion draws large number of independents and Republicans to vote for Democratic candidates. And that's why we said you have to wait to see when the analysis comes up. And there was early analysis that we brought up about Virginia early on. But he writes here 2 factors probably had a bigger effect than abortion. The Commonwealth was redistricted before the election. That benefited Democrats last week, according to the senior election analyst at Real Clear Politics. Since Virginia is blue, the redistricting resulted in more solidly Democratic districts than solidly Republican ones. Offsetting the Democrat redistricting advantage was the popularity of Virginia's Republican governor, Glenn Youngkin. October 16th, Washington Post poll found 54% of Virginians approved of his job performance, 39% disapproved, while 43% of the same respondents thought Mr. Biden was doing a good job, while 55% did not. This favorability advantage for Republicans helped GOP candidates grab districts that normally would have gone Democrat. Given that their state has trended Democrat for years, Virginia Republicans held up well against a challenging map. The GOP would cheer if it pulled off similar margin changes in 2024. If Republicans flipped every U.S. House seat Democrats won by 10 points or less in 2022, the GOP would pick up 50 seats, a 271-seat majority in the biggest GOP seat haul since 1928. GOP Senate candidates would also be sitting pretty if they do as well in 2024 as Virginia Republican Senate hopefuls did last week. If GOP candidates won every state Mr. Biden carried by 9 points or less in 2020 and all the Trump states, there would be new Republican senators from Arizona, Michigan, Minnesota, Montana, Nevada, Ohio, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and Wisconsin, giving the GOP a 58-seat majority. Abortion rights advocates also point to Kentucky, where the incumbent Democrat defeated the Trump-backed Republican Attorney General 52-47. We'll get more on that and the analysis on that coming up next.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Yeah, so just looking at some analysis that Karl Rove did on the elections last week and saying the Democrats are way over publicizing abortion, which is why they went from what a great success it was to panic by the time you got to last weekend.
Yeah, sure.
And we had talked about Virginia, and then he goes to Kentucky, and he says abortion right advocates also point to Kentucky, where incumbent Democrat Beshear defeated Trump-backed Republican Attorney General Daniel Cameron 52.5% to 47.5%. Ms. Cohen from Vox, who he referenced earlier, that was talking about the whole abortion thing, wrote that Mr. Beshear's reelection provides the clearest evidence that abortion drew voters of all persuasions to vote Democrats. And he writes here, Democrats did run a powerful ad featuring a young woman raped by her stepfather when she was 12. But if abortion alone decided the governor's race, and you and I brought this point up, why is it that the rest of the statewide Republican ticket won with 57 to 61% of the vote and an average margin of 18 points? All those Republicans are strongly pro-life. Maybe they won because, hang on a second here, maybe they won because the governor's race was more about the incumbent's record and each candidate's message on a range of issues, not only abortion. On the flip side, Ohio approved a ballot measure enshrining a right to abortion in a state constitution by 56.6 to 43.4. But Republicans royally screwed up that situation. First, they tried to game the system with an August referendum raising the threshold for amending the state constitution, which voters soundly rejected. Then they didn't offer any alternative to the unlimited abortion proposal, and then were massively outspent. He said, it's an issue. Abortion may have helped the Democrats sometimes, But the issue is hardly a silver bullet. As Virginia showed, as long as Mr. Biden is the face of the party, pro-life candidates can make gains on Democrat turf if they frame the abortion issue with care, as you and I have both said over and over again. And we had said early on, we went, wow. I'll tell you something that I wonder how much of a difference it's going to make. We talked about that last week, that Texas had a bunch of constitutional amendments. One was to cut the property tax. Mm-hmm. The legislature already voted for it. All it needed was a majority vote. That passed 83-17. Mm-hmm. Now, I am
old.
Yeah, I'm old. So two things hit me this year. Mm-hmm. One was called the senior compression or whatever it is, mm-hmm. where because I'm a senior now.
And that doesn't mean your height, by the way.
No, I am not.
Because as you age, you tend to lose height.
Right, and
people do.
And I keep adding to my heels mm-hmm. because I figure if it's good enough for politicians, and I want to make sure that people view me as being tall.
Right, exactly. It's what's important.
Exactly. It helps me pick up chicks.
Yeah.
Chicks like tall guys.
Right.
Where was I here?
I don't know. Compression.
Right. And so I'm going to see there's something that they voted on last year. I'm going to see a little bit of a reduction. Well, I get not one, but two property tax bills for my house. It's only one property, but...
Yeah, there are multiple taxing entities, and you pay to two different counties?
I pay to two different counties, both Tarrant and Dallas counties, because my city is in both counties. And so the city taxes and everything else go to Dallas County. My county tax, my hospital tax, my community college tax, and my school taxes go to Tarrant County. Well, because of what they passed, and they waited to send out everything until the vote came in, mm-hmm. because it applies to 2023. I didn't know that. This has never happened to me, and I just wonder what kind of an impact this will have in Texas. Because you sit and you would say, okay, what will voters respond to? Well, they might respond to something that they've never seen in their entire lives. My school taxes, which is the majority, my school taxes are over half of all of my property taxes.
Right. That is generally the case. Yeah.
My school tax cut, this is the amount of money I have to pay. Forget about the appraisals. Mm-hmm. 44.8%.
Right. Total with all of with everything.
No, that's just my school taxes.
No. I mean, based on all of your exemptions.
All of my exemptions, yes.
Right.
That's the final total.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe, when I got it the other day, I looked at it, I'm like, whatever. And it was a few hours later, I went, wait a minute. And I'm talking about the amount that I owe, because I got mm-hmm. my bill mm-hmm. that you have to pay by January. Mm-hmm. Man, it can't be that low. It's got to be a mistake. And I went through and looked at every single portion of it and went, whoa.
Mine's $1,100, and I don't have the senior exemption yet.
1,100 what?
Lower.
Oh, 1,100 lower. Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. So my property tax will be probably $2,300 lower than it was last year. Mm. I'm estimating, because I haven't got my Dallas County in yet. But everything else, I should be, my total complete property tax should be 29.4% lower than it was last year. Mm-hmm. That's never happened anywhere that I've ever lived, where I've ever received any kind of tax cut like that, ever. Never happened to me in my entire life.
They also put a temporary cap on appraisals. So I don't know how temporary that is. I don't know if that means through 24 or what the sunset provision is. But what that means is your central appraisal district in our state, which they've had we had a constitutional amendment, it goes back a ways, that limited that percentage-wise on an increased basis. They could only go, you can have the market value, you'll see it. The CAD will say, okay, here's your market value. Now here's what your exemptions are, and here's what basically, because they're limited to that appraisal. It does cap based on the percentage every year, but there's a new cap in place that will limit that. It's temporary. I don't know how temporary, but that means even further savings, because what they're doing is the homestead exemption was raised. I don't know, was it more than doubled? I think, and that's a huge
It went up.
deal.
It went from 40 to 100,000.
Yeah.
And the homestead exemption, but the political point is, in a time of incredible inflation, I mean, people are going to be opening up their property tax bills this week and next week in Texas and going, there's got to be a mistake. I'm not going to protest my taxes this year. There are people going to. I was walking around until I, verified all of it. I was walking around thinking they made a mistake, going, what should I do? That's the kind of thing. Let's put it this way. Will that have an impact of keeping Texas red into the future? Now,
The reason I believe it will is because the newspapers that you saw, even the liberal newspapers in Texas, endorsed it. What does that tell you? It's exactly what we've been saying for about Austin for a long time. Austin, which is Travis County, and also Dallas County, Harris County, which is Houston, very blue. But what do you find within those blue zones? They love the low taxes and pro-business part of Texas. And so what does that tell you? When they go to the polls, that is an influencer, even for those that may be more liberal, and it's relative. And they look at that and say, well, I don't want to lose that benefit. If the Democrats come into power, we're in trouble, and taxes are going to go up. I don't want that. The reason I live in Texas is because of this, and that applies to a great number of Democrats. In fact, I'm thinking of one friend who is a Democrat, longtime Democrat, born and raised in Texas. And I'll tell you right now, when it comes to taxes and pro-business policy, he is low taxes and pro-business policy, he is absolutely 100% on board with the Republicans. He may not say that to you, but he is.
Well, with inflation and everything else where there is no good news and all of a sudden you open it up, I'm telling you, because there are a lot of people don't pay attention to local elections. There are people going to open up their property tax bill going, oh, God, here it is. Oh, geez, and they're going to look at it and go, what the hell? Something's wrong with this. They're not even going to know. A lot of people, because on these elections, unless you're paying attention, a lot of people just don't, whatever. They don't realize it. Now, the other thing is being a senior, because of the extra that you got in Texas, that is an extremely reliable voting demographic.
Of course. That's why you do it.
And so when you see, well, the other thing is because property taxes have been higher in Texas because we don't have an income tax. So lowering it as
they have a sales tax and a property tax, yeah.
Right. So lowering it as they have. Yeah, but I don't know. New York has sales tax, property tax, income tax.
Well, they also have a city income tax in New York City.
They have a city income tax, too, right? They have a city income tax. That's true. They have a state and city income tax there. So you see that here, and if there aren't many things that make me go, whoa, in politics in a good way, I went, whoa. And I came in telling you yesterday, I'm like, I just can't believe it. Something's got to be wrong. The first thing I thought was, I'm not protesting my property tax this year.
Well, yeah, and that typically comes at the beginning of the year when you get the assessment. And
Right,
then,
exactly.
But,
Right.
and there are
Or
a
next
number
year.
of people that have it in escrow. But if you're a senior, you likely have no mortgage.
No.
But here will be the case with those that have it in escrow. When there's an overpayment, an overfunding of your escrow, then by law, that mortgage company has to refund it to you. So this effect actually will play out at different levels at different times of the year because they have so much time
That's a great
to refund you from that overpayment in escrow, that overfunding of your escrow, which will come to typically it's like if your homeowner's insurance goes down, it's a couple of months later typically. So that this means that right now, when people are looking at it, if they're paying attention, but if they're not, and it's in escrow, and they get a check from their mortgage company for overpayment of their escrow, they'll know it then. So that political effect
Right.
or reminder will have an impact for the next few months.
It's funny because I never had escrow. I always paid it. I never had escrow.
I've always had escrow in later
my
years
property
because
taxes.
there was no reason to keep it in savings because savings was paying nothing.
Yeah.
Now that my home is almost paid for, it doesn't make any sense anyway. So, it was just so much easier. I don't like dealing with entities and someone else is going to do it for me. Okay, and not charge me an extra fee for it.
Yeah, but
Okay.
my point was I wasn't saying one was right or one was wrong.
Right.
I'm simply saying that. No. I wasn't. That you make a great point that most people probably do escrow, and so they're going to be getting checks next year,
Right.
and continuing to get checks as we approach election season.
And
which
I
is a
would
good
say,
thing.
back in the day, it was right to not have it in escrow because you could keep that money all year in savings and actually get something for it. And now it's better. We're back at that point again. Don't have it in escrow because you can earn 5.25% in savings right now, and then pay the entity later. And that's where the benefit came in.
866-90 Red Eye.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90 Red Eye.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. So, like I said, it's worth going over the actual numbers of last week's election to put it more into perspective. As we said, the immediate reaction from both sides was, hey, whoa. It's the usual hype that you get. It's the panic. It's the joy. And like we said, the White House was celebrating like crazy on Wednesday of last week. By the time he got to the weekend, it was bunker time.
Well, did they see those numbers, the real numbers, and the real breakdown of where Biden is not performing?
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. You see, Joe Manchin said, he'd consider running for president. Biden, not the person we thought he was in 2020. He's gone so far left. Shut up. Jeez, shut up, Manchin.
He is so annoying.
Jeez, yeah, he's becoming an irritant now.
It's just, he's not the guy I thought he was. You sound like such a doofus when you say that. Stop talking. Go, you, Romney, and Liz Cheney. Just go form something and keep it quiet. Like the No Labels party.
Right.
Yeah.
Join the No Labels party and don't
Right.
talk about any issues.
How about the no talking party?
Right.
It's just so annoying. Remember when so many people got worked up and thought, oh, he may be about to change to Republican. No, he's not. He's no different than he... This talk in the hallway that he always had, well, I didn't expect the Democrats to do that. I mean, you just sound stupid. You just sound stupid. Joe Biden's not the guy we thought he was in 2020. Well, first of all, who did you think he was?
Yeah. It's a great point.
And in 2020, you had like 40 years to figure it out by then. You know, I don't know if Joe Manchin knows this. Joe Biden was once the vice president of the United States, and that lasted for 8 years. That doesn't even get into his decades-long Senate seat that he held. Hey, he's not the guy we thought he was.
Well, day one, he showed you who he was, did he not?
Right.
With his executive orders? I mean,
Exactly.
wasn't hard to figure it out.
Well, how did you not pay attention to the campaign that said, listen, if you've been deported, you need to come back. We want you here. We want you here. He said that during the campaign. Which Joe Biden are you talking about? Manchin?
You
Does
ready?
he mean James Biden?
You ready for this headline?
All right.
All right, here we go.
All right.
By the way, there were some good headlines yesterday.
Yeah.
Let me find the one. I'm not going to go into the article at all, but I just I read it to you earlier, and I just seen it here before we go to the serious political headline. Where'd it
Before
go
we get
here?
back to doing a talk show.
Yeah, before we get back to doing the talk show, I got to find it.
Yeah. All right.
It was and I can't. I don't want to ad lib it
All right.
because it was just it was too good. All right, I can't find it. Oh, I had it here and now it's gone. Yeah,
That's just great.
okay, there's the Babs story. It's not the Babs story.
She's leaving.
She's leaving.
She's leaving again.
She's leaving the country.
I'm
Okay.
quitting Facebook. That's it. I'm not going to be on MySpace any longer.
I can't find the one. All right, I'll just do this one here.
All right, okay.
We'll find the other one in the next break here.
Okay.
Biden aide tries to sell the idea of a vigorous Joe Biden. Quote, he's a beast. I would suggest
He's a beast.
we were right in the advice where we told Joe Biden, we gave advice to Joe Biden. He didn't listen. We said, do not use the term Bidenomics. It's going to blow up in your face.
He's a beast.
Don't do it because you can't win inflation.
Yeah.
So stop with the Bidenomics because you have just personalized the inflation to you. And
Yeah.
that's exactly what happened.
Right.
Do not try to promote Joe Biden as a beast.
He's a beast, Gary.
That is not going
He's in
to work.
beast mode. He's a beast.
How far will Biden, the Biden regime wonks go in line to the American people? They're just getting started. The latest whopper tops them all. Would you believe they're trying to sell us that Joe Biden is vigorous and energetic?
Uh-huh.
Oh, yes, they are. Oh, man.
Oh, my gosh.
The whole world's been watching for nearly 3 years now as Biden grows progressively feebler, which is true. On Saturday at the Veterans Day commemoration, he appeared visibly confused and had to be told by a polite and deferential military officer to go stand beside, PJ Media writes it, go stand beside alleged Vice President Kamala Harris.
Alleged
man,
vice
I'm telling
president.
you.
That's funny.
And they go on to to talk about all the problems that he's having, and then get into the fact that actually you had one of his aides, Mitch Landrieu. He is the White House infrastructure coordinator.
Okay.
That he came out and said, this guy is like, he's a beast.
He's a beast, Gary. Okay. All right. Yeah. A beast, I tell you. Hear him roar. Yeah. You mean the same guy that after he gives a speech, turns around and turns into a Roomba, as Shane Gillis, the comedian, points out? Wanders around. I'm serious, man. It's no joke. That guy? What kind of beast are you talking about? A sloth?
And then you saw that Brandon Johnson receives lowest approval rating of a Chicago mayor in this early in a term, 28% approval rating in Chicago.
Ouch.
Well, you knew what you were getting.
Yeah.
I mean, this is where you shake your head and you say, when will Democrats finally wake up? They keep electing the same radical liberals, expecting something different, and they keep getting the same thing. Then they get upset a few months later going, oh, what's going on here?
Well, that's the thing is that you look at that. I don't think, I've been saying for a while that Mayor Adams in New York City, I don't know that he's going to get a second term. And now with everything on his plate, I think that I could see him getting a challenger, a Democrat, of course, and not becoming a long-term mayor there in New York City. In terms of Brandon in Chicago, my question for the liberals of Chicago, what is it that you don't, where is that disapproval? What's it? Is it the rise in the number of migrants in your city? Is it the rise in violent crime? I mean, Chicago, it's Chicago. It can't be the rise in violent crime. That would have happened a long time ago. For a liberal mayor to get such low approval ratings, what does it take for that to happen in Chicago? I'm very curious on the issues. Because people like us who don't live in Chicago and look in from the outside and are critical thinkers would look at it and go, okay, crime, migrants, whole number of things. Very expensive to live there. But why him? How many liberal mayors have they had over the years? Why is he not liberal enough? I'm very curious of what it takes, because you and I have been asking the question. We asked it in Seattle in the Summer of Love and that whole thing. What is it going to take? I don't believe we'll see it in our lifetime where we have this big, where there's going to be a red wave in Chicago. That's not going to happen. Or San Francisco or Seattle. It's not going to change. So then the next question is, all right, what is it that the Democrats, the liberals who live there, what is it that they're looking for? What do they want their local leaders, including their mayor, to do? I'm very curious about that.
And I've read a couple of analysis that they're not going to fundamentally change. They're still going to, we need more cops, but that's just a temporary solution that they still wish to keep, because you can't in these liberal cities. You have to continue with the concept that the police are racist. That you can sit there and say, okay, we need to temporarily do something, but it was a really interesting analysis. I don't know if it was City Journal that did it. Maybe it was, but it was a really interesting article talking about the fact that, they talk a good game, but they're not going to be able to do it.
Yeah.
And I saw that Seattle voted in 3 different council people that are, apparently pro-police. So maybe some cities can do it. But you remember, that was a core of 2020. Remember, everyone who wasn't on board, that is the biggest blue tsunami of intimidation that I've ever seen.
Yeah, right.
I've never experienced that. We talked about that. It wasn't going to stop us from telling the truth, whether sports leagues and corporations and the NBA and the NFL wanted to lie to you and jump aboard it. It was a big lie that police departments are systemically racist to hunt down and kill blacks.
Right, right.
And we saw now Black Lives Matter. We all know what a fraud they've been.
Yeah.
And so you've seen these cities back off. We've got to do something. We've got to do something. But the crime rate's still really high. In San Francisco, it doesn't look like they're trying to solve the problem.
Right.
In Chicago, it doesn't seem like they're solving the problem. In Portland, it doesn't seem like they're solving the problem, because the point that was being made by the op-ed writer was you can't still change. You can try to do things around the edges, but it is basically biblical to the left that police departments are racist, and therefore you have to rein them in consistently.
Right.
And so they're never going to be able to get where they want to get to.
Right. Well, that's it. It's that you're not going to change the foundation. You're not going to change the culture in these cities, in these blue cities. It's not going to happen. I don't see it actually changing for our own state, in the blue areas of our own state, including Austin, Houston, Dallas. Although the Dallas mayor changed to a Republican, my question is, okay, can he then survive an election, the next election, running as a Republican? Because that's always the standard. You know, you can change after you're voted in, but what's going to happen at the next election, and that's, remains to be seen. And so you look at these areas, and they're suffering. If you've ever been to San Francisco, aside from the human feces on the sidewalk, it's such a beautiful area. The Northwest, you lived up in Portland for years.
Yeah.
What's not to love? I've been to Chicago on business. It's great. I've been to California, I don't know how many times, in different parts of California. Love San Diego. But San Francisco, the super blue areas, you look at them and go, wow, man, I mean, come on. And the resources there and how great it could be, but it's just culturally, politically not going to change. The foundation is not going to change in our lifetime.
You bring up Portland, and every place, and I've talked about this before, I'm very lucky because I've lived in so many cities. And every city I view as home. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's the beautiful thing. If I'm back in Portland, I feel like I'm home. If I'm in Fort Walton Beach, Navarre, Florida, I feel like I'm at home. If I'm in Buffalo, I feel like I'm at home. It's home. When I've flown into Chicago at times and oh, okay. There's like a sense of security because I live there, Rockland, Illinois. Yeah. Just the places I lived, they become home. And Portland was wonderful when I lived there, even though they were still insane. The left was insane still back then. But I lived on a place called Sylvan Hill that anybody listening on KXL, you know where that is. Basically off Burnside, but on the hill facing Beaverton. But all I did was go up over the little bit of a hill and come down Burnside, and you're in this beautiful, forest. I mean, it's all forest. It looks like, and all of a sudden you go from forest, and the city's there. I mean, there's forest, city, like that.
Yeah.
It's the only place I've ever seen like that, and it's the huge city park that they have, which is basically wilderness, and it's a huge city park. I mean, it's monstrous. Goes for miles, but you go, and it's so beautiful to experience that and to know that parts of downtown, what has happened to them makes me extremely sad because it has the potential to be an incredibly vibrant downtown where people can go and have fun and be entertained and whatever.
Yeah.
But even when I was there then, even downtown, because, you could be, if you were 14 years old or 15, I forgot what the age was, you could run away. You had these heroin addicts sitting. You come out of a restaurant, heroin addicts are laying on the sidewalk right there when you're walking by.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember saying that can't continue. Well, it's gotten worse.
Right.
And it's gotten worse, and it's gotten worse.
Right.
And it's gotten worse. And what do you do? I mean, what's the upside to liberalism at that point?
Well, that's it. How do they?
Because that's the end game of liberalism. That's the ultimate end game of liberalism. Do whatever you want to do.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And
no rules.
And with the homeless, well, you can't harass them. You can't talk to them. You can't approach them. You can't do anything about it in your own neighborhood. I mean, where does it end?
It's just a different lifestyle.
Yeah, exactly. They have a home. It just happens to be a tent.
866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at J.J. Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on roadside inspections. Drivers must always be prepared for a roadside inspection. This means drivers should always have their personal, vehicle, and company credentials organized and ready, and having any shipment paperwork such as bills of lading or hazardous materials shipment emergency response information organized and ready for the inspection official. Just an FYI, the top 2 violations written against drivers every year, as well as during Operation Road Check, are log general form and manner and log not current. Both are completely avoidable if the driver keeps the log accurate, compliant, and current at all times. Having the vehicle ready for inspection involves the driver conducting daily inspections and making sure any problems that are discovered are immediately corrected. Vehicle readiness also requires the company to make sure that the vehicle is current on all scheduled maintenance and that the maintenance schedule is adequate. This will make sure the driver is being given a sound vehicle to start with. This tip was brought to you by J.J. Keller & Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. All right, I found the one headline where I just went, oh, geez. I don't even want to read this one.
All right.
Dean McDermott blames Tory spelling split on his drunken rages and her choice to have barn animals in the bedroom.
Okay, so we have some questions.
I got that from Fox News. Apparently, it was one of them was a pig in the bed. Fox News.
And it's not her claiming that it was him being the pig?
No.
Okay. No. An actual pig.
Apparently, it was her choice to have farm animals in the bedroom.
Wow. Man. Oof.
Only in Hollywood.
Yeah.
5 hours a night, and still not enough. Listen to our podcast, available on the app and on our website, rediradioshow.com.
He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Struggling to get through at the moment there.
No,
okay,
right.
no, I'm fine.
Okay, you okay?
Yes.
All right, good.
All right, well, I'm reading here, former economic advisor to Trump, Stephen Moore. And he wrote an op-ed piece that Fox News picked up and mirrors exactly what we said the other day.
Mm-hmm.
That one of our biggest fears, we know where Democrats are going, but one of our biggest fears is the populist movement inside the Republican Party.
Mm-hmm.
And for those who may not know it, Josh Hawley, who you've probably seen take on Mayorkas, and pretty impressive when he does, we have brought up the things that he has brought up, which have caused us to call him John McCain 2.0. He has brought up the fact that we should limit credit card rates, and He believes that Citizens United, that Supreme Court decision, should be overturned so corporations do not have the same free speech rights as any other group, which, of course, is about as liberal as you can get. Mm-hmm. But in the populist movement of today, many times it's viewed as conservative. Well, we can control the economy the correct way. Well, finally, somebody else has picked up on it, Stephen Moore. In the last several months, I've debated some of the intellectual leaders of a group called the National Conservatives. I consider myself a conservative on most issues, so I lean more libertarian. National Conservatives are well-meaning and make some very valid points about the things going on, going in the wrong direction in America culturally and economically, especially in the post-COVID world under Joe Biden. Sometimes it really does feel like our country is decaying. Our government-run schools are rotten. There are more suicides, more drug overdoses. Our border is out of control. Our debt is growing. Our basic First Amendment rights are under assault. Our cities are starting to resemble third world countries, and everything is more expensive. Biden, who pledged to be a unifier, is driving the country over a progressive cliff. Need I go on? But national conservatives take their argument a step further and maintain that this squeeze on the middle-class, blue-collar Americans predates Bidenomics, and America has experienced a 40-year secular decline of disappearing factories, income equality, and the decline of union power and shrinking wages. There are several prominent Senate Republicans, including Marco Rubio of Florida, J.D. Vance of Ohio, and Josh Hawley of Missouri, to name a few, who have dabbled in this movement. They want more restraints on big business, such as through antitrust enforcement and price controls on what industries can charge. We have talked about this. More protectionist trade policies, tax policies that provide credits and deductions for having more children, restrictions on legal immigration, and even higher taxes on the rich. They are, in short, arguing for a more activist role of the government for supposed failures of the free market. Now, if he's talking about restrictions on legal immigration, if he's doing the libertarian dance, Mr. Moore, that there should be open borders, we would disagree. There's always going to be limitations on legal immigration.
Yeah, and that's been an ongoing debate forever.
Right. I would disagree with him on that. If you go point by point, that I would say Moore is completely wrong, as is Stossels when he has brought that up in the past.
Right. Yeah.
Or any other libertarian that somehow wants to make the case that the federal government should not be in charge of our borders and secure our borders, which is absolutely ridiculous. And to me is not a libertarian position.
I've never found it to be, because it's the number one role of government is national defense, and that starts with our own borders.
Right. So, but I do agree on they want more restrictions on big business, and we talked about the, Josh Hawley coming out and promoting the cap on credit card rates of 18%.
Right.
Federal government has no business coming in and regulating the they do it, but we are against the government coming in and number one, doing caps or doing what do you call it? Not cost controls, whatever.
Yeah, price controls.
Price controls. Price controls. It's been tried before. It never works. Republicans and people that call themselves conservatives should never be promoting that, but they are. And limiting free speech, as Josh Hawley wishes to do, because he believes that if a corporation has free speech, that damage is done.
Right.
And he doesn't like that damage. Therefore, the people that run corporations, should not get free speech rights, which is, of course, absolutely ridiculous. And so it's interesting, though, that Steve Moore brings it up, It's also interesting because Steve Moore was brought in. He's one of the people that was brought in by Trump because of the protectionist policies of Navarro and Trump's own protectionist leanings. And so was Larry Kudlow,
Right.
which is why we have said there are still people out there. I know every time I bring this up, people get angry at me. But USMCA, Trump did not get rid of NAFTA. They changed the name.
And very little else.
And very little else got changed with NAFTA. He promoted it and people bought it. It didn't change. Why? Because Trump was convinced by Kudlow, Moore, and others, no, you can't do that.
Right.
And the protectionists lost out in that case, and I was happy because of it. And as I said back then, well, if Trump wants to sell that he got rid of NAFTA and it's called MSMCA, and people want to buy it without researching it, well, then fine with me, as long as the right thing was done. I can't change that people are willing to follow a narrative without examining it themselves.
Yeah.
Nothing I can do about it, but
I think it's USMCA.
What'd I say?
MSNBC or something. MSMCA, I think is what you said.
USMCA.
Yeah, USMCA. Right.
Right?
US, Mexico, Canada. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
USMCA.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you said MSMCA at one point, which is the world's worst cable news channel.
Yes, USMCA.
And USMCA is also the worst Village People song ever.
Right, but if Steve Moore was brought in, and Steve Moore was brought in because of Trump's protectionist leanings,
right?
Or instincts,
yeah,
where he didn't end up going, and that's fine. I'm glad that Trump didn't go there, but the fact is, he knows that not only do these senators have those leanings, but Trump also does.
Yeah,
he didn't go forward with it, but he's got those thoughts. And, remember, he's the one that came up with the wealth tax.
Yeah.
He's the one that came up. He's the one that, when he ran, came up with the idea that we pay 50 cents on a dollar for our debt till he was told, you can't do that. The whole system crumbles. He was the one that came up with, when he was running the first time in 2016, borrowing trillions of dollars for the infrastructure because interest rates were low. Then had to drop that idea when he was reminded that if interest rates are low now, they won't be forever, and we're not paying off any principal on it anytime soon, so that problem will be there. So that is the thing, and that is the one thing that I wonder in a Trump presidency for a second term. Would he go with what he did last time, or with his protectionist instincts? Remember, the wealth tax that we talk about, that was brought into popular culture by Donald Trump. Trump has had many liberal leanings in the past, and my concern would be if he got another term, would he not care what he did because he didn't have to be, he wouldn't be, he wouldn't serve a third term. And that is my concern because of the people that he surrounded himself before he reversed course, and I'll give him credit for reversing course. If he didn't know and looked for the people that actually are capitalists and know how it works and followed their advice, that's a good thing.
Well, because we've quite often seen with other Republican presidents or Republican leaders, whether it's a speaker or the Senate Majority Leader positions, they stick with what they're going to do based on pride. Which, by the way, if you were going to predict someone was going to do that, you would say Trump would be that type of individual who would do that.
And
but he didn't.
He didn't, no.
He listened to advisors. In fact, he brought Larry Kudlow in, a.k.a. Gary McNamara II. Eric Harley II. Somebody who is, pro-free market. And those are the things you look at. Okay. He's listening to every argument. All right. He's listening. And that was encouraging and, by the way, refreshing for the aforementioned reasons. And I guess we'll see, what 24 shapes up to be. I got to be honest with you. I got to say something right now. This is what I love about doing our show, because we can just say this to the audience. And I think I told you this off the air. My mindset is already beyond Christmas and Thanksgiving.
Yeah, you did.
I'm already into 20 because I'm so anxious to see what 20. It's not that, and I said to you, it's not that I don't want to. It's just that it's like, yeah. Let's move on. Because I'm so anxious to get into 2024 to see what the Trump campaign is going to shape up to be by the time we get to the convention, what the GOP primary season is going to look like. Because right now it's like, yawn. You and I were talking about DeSantis, how much longer, off the air earlier, how much longer does he stay in? Does he bow out now, keep his war chest, and say, you know what, now's not the time? And we're seeing that something is shaping up right now in the GOP primary, that there likely won't be any little change. And so for that reason, I'm going to focus on being the governor of Florida. And when the time is right, then we'll return and we'll let the people decide, blah, blah, blah. I don't know if that happens or not. But with polls the way they're going and the fact that there's nothing, I'm convinced nothing is going to change unless Donald Trump himself decides to drop out. He's going to be the nominee. But what does the campaign season look like? Because Biden, he's got to be out there more. You got to do more ribbon cuttings. You got to do more stumping. Gone are the days. Think about this. Just during his presidency, how much has changed with his mental state? Because it used to be, he could walk into the ice cream shop, get a double scoop of Rocky Road in a waffle cone, wearing the glasses, and everybody's, oh, look at him, look. I think he got Rocky Road. Is it Rocky Road? Is that his favorite? That's the thing. And now it's like, hey, does he even know we're here? Does he even know he's here? And it's, to me, the most fascinating season yet, politically. And I'm just so anxious to get into it. And to see also where the American people are.
Yeah, because I don't know where they are.
I
at the
have
moment.
no idea.
Neither do I. I don't know.
Logic dictates that they look at the left and say, man, they are bungling this. But I hope that's the case, but I can't tell you for sure.
But I think it's a good article that Steve Moore wrote, because
very good.
You and I, we've gone after Josh Hawley for his liberal leanings on financial things, which is just another way of saying, I'm in the government and I know how to run business better than business. Right. I can run the economy,
right,
and I can run it better than a Democrat. No,
right.
I don't want a politician to be running the economy.
Right.
866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. One of the problems of doing all of this is by the time we get to January, and even right now, I was just watching Nikki Haley on CNBC, and she was talking about the plan that she says talks about her plan to register all social media users by name. The federal government making a law, and saying, but I don't mind Americans having anonymous free speech. I'm going to get to the point where I don't like any of the Republican candidates at all.
This is where I'm going. It's like I don't know where to turn. It's like, all of you, stop it. Knock it off. Okay, everybody out. We're going to start fresh.
Can we start over again?
Yeah. I honestly don't know where to go, because it was crazy what she was proposing. It's just silly.
If they want to do it as a private,
if the companies, those social
media
media companies want to do it, that's their territory. They can do that.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.